Hi, today I want to talk about planning our way out of the present situation. Now, we're hearing a lot from the government at the moment, all sorts of targets and all sorts of projections and all sorts of things that are happening. But sometimes it has to be said that it feels a bit like it's a jam tomorrow, a set of optimism. And optimism without a plan is basically a pipe dream. Now, for those of us that are going through this as small to medium-sized businesses and charities, the future is looking a little precarious at best. The present, we're adapting as best as we can, but we've got to start thinking about coming out of this problem. Now, the way that it's being projected in a way is that we're going to bounce out of this, like the recovery is going to be a V-shaped recovery. Now, there's no historical evidence of V-shaped recoveries from economic crisis, and that's what we're in. Apart from the coronavirus situation, it's plunging us deeper into an economic crisis that we have to think our way out of. Now, we've got to start thinking in two ways. We've got to start thinking, I think, short to medium term and a longer term. And we've got to start thinking in terms of some concepts such as what's known as EVR Congruence. That is, for our businesses to thrive, we need to have the environment, our values, and our resources aligned so that they fit the times that we're living in. And I've dealt with values many times in the videos that I've promoted, and through the book, Human Resource Management Made Easy, values are a thread that run all the way through from beginning to end. So anyone that's watching my videos will know that values are integral to anything that I say and do around human resource management. So let's park that for a moment and move on to the environment and the resources. Now, when we start to emerge from the present crisis, we're going to go into a situation where there's going to be a gradual return to work. Instead of that being a V curve, a V-shaped recovery, as some people are over-optimistically projecting, it's more likely to be gradual. So, for instance, some businesses will be able to open earlier than others. Those of us that are in retail or in the restaurant food businesses might find that people are reluctant to come back straight away. In other cases, they might be coming back in the droves. All sorts of people will be affected in different ways by this. Either way, you've got to plan your workforce to meet the new challenges. And so when we're looking at the resources, which is more what I'm concerned with in this, they have to meet the challenge of the circumstances of the environment. In each of your businesses, in each of your charities, for the people that are watching these videos, you know those circumstances more than most. But you also know that if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a structure to what you're going to do, then you're just carrying on being reactive to a situation. We need to be proactive. We need to think, what do we need to do? Now, throughout the book, I use something of a model for looking at planning, and it starts by identifying your goals, your objectives. So if we look at the short term of that, we're looking at how we're going to come out of this crisis, how we're going to respond to the emergent economic climate that we're going into. And so you plan around that. How are you going to meet that? Now, for some people, we may be looking at adding to our workforce. For some, we might be looking at maintaining it as it is. And for some, we might be looking at the painful decision of having to reduce our workforce one way or another, which puts us into the potential of a redundancy situation. Now, there are ways we can think ourselves around that and avoid redundancies. So, for instance, we might look at moving onto a shorter working week once we go into recovery. That saves us going into redundancy situations and laying people off but it takes consultation and negotiations and discussions with our workforce. So there are things that we can look at that are alternatives to redundancy. Uh, and we can also look at, as we've been discovering in the way that we've reacted to the present situation, different ways of working that can save us perhaps on overheads, that can help us reduce our carbon footprint. But the first thing we do is look at our goals. Step one, set our goals. Where do we want to be? What can we do? Second step is to undertake a present state analysis, and that shows us where we are now, what we've got, what are our resources, what do we lack, what do we have in abundance, how can we use all of that. So we start step one, set the goals. Step two, present state analysis. From there we can understand the things that we need to do, so we can plan our next stages. We will understand their obstacles and we'll understand their advantages by undertaking the present state analysis. From there, we follow that through with a plan. We build in our milestones. What do we need to do by when? What skills do we need by when? What knowledge do we need by when? How do we get that in place? How do we make sure that we've got the right number of people, the right skills with those people, the right knowledge with those people? All that comes into the plan. Now I use that model throughout the book, so it's easy to refer to and apply to the present and future situations that we find ourselves in. So that kind of starts taking care of the short term, in that we start looking at how we're going to come out of this and how we're going to build our capacity to perform to the needs and expectations of our customers, present and future, how we adapt to them, and in some cases there increased demand that may come from this, or the decreased demand. You know your business, you know your industry, you know your area of expertise, and you know your customer base much better than I do. So you're more able to prepare for that, but using the kind of models that I provide in the book and which I've just described. Longer term, we start looking at ourselves. Where do we want to be in a year plus time? Now let's remember that also within this period, within this next year, we'll be coming out of the one crisis and we're going to go into the formal and complete exit from Europe. Now for many of us, this is going to have an impact in that we are part of the supply chain, the peripheral businesses that are attached to the larger organisations, say in the aerospace industry or the car manufacturing industry, logistics and all sorts of things that have a strong dependency on trading with Europe. Now that's going to be affected and we all know it. So we're going to have to prepare for that. So again, we've got to look at coming out of the present situation and into the next and planning for what we need. Now the same kind of rule applies. What are our goals? To start with, where do we want to be? How are we going to get there? What have we got? What have we got to start with? What have we got now? How are we going to develop that? So we're looking at workforce planning, both short to medium term and medium to long term. And we can start using our time now to do that. We've already started looking at the way that we work. We've already started looking at how we can do that more efficiently. We've already started looking at remodeling, restructuring. We're starting thinking about that. So let's start planning our way out of this. Let's start planning for our survival and our prosperity for the future. Thank you for watching. Next time we'll start talking about some workforce development. Meanwhile, I will keep updating on the coronavirus situation and any government guidance or anything that my institute, the Chartered Institute of Personnel Development, is offering on this. And just a little point on that: the Chartered Institute of Personnel Development is at present putting pressure on the government to be much more flexible about the way we operate the furlough leave, and looking to enable staff to carry on working for a part of that time. So we're not looking at a complete layoff of staff and being paid 80% of the salary or wages. We're also looking at how those things can be made more flexible so that maybe people can carry on working 1 day a week or so on and so forth. So looking at some more flexibility within the present furlough leave rules. So I'll keep you up to speed on all of these things with frequent video bulletins. Also, just one last reminder, any comments gratefully received. Just put them in the comments box, and every comment is responded to by me. Please get in touch, and just to reiterate once again, any services that I offer through the coronavirus period about the coronavirus issue, they're free because we're all in it together. So stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.